Culture Divide Experiment. My name is Barry J, and we are in a new home. We got a new format. We have, where are we? On the living stage inside the RL Hotel in the Inner Harbor, Baltimore. She was clowning me earlier because she didn't think I was going to be able to say all that together. But see, we don't normally say that. So,
no, we don't.
That only happens if you used to saying things like that. We just kind of
true.
Right on out. That's how I took it.
Yeah, I did too.
I didn't catch it right away, but once I watched the video, I was like,
Yeah, okay. He says that on the regular. That's like an inside joke.
Hey, welcome back. Let me introduce you to the squad. First off, to my left, your right, my rock, my ace, my everything, my partner, my business partner, my she gonna tell it like it is to me every single time, my wife, SJ. Welcome back, baby.
Thank you so much. Good to be back.
It's always a pleasure. To my right, your left, make sure I'm doing that right.
That's gonna get confusing.
Hey, as long as you're watching, you're okay. Now, if you're listening to the podcast, my bad. Just listen, okay? Okay. She is the ultimate network connector. She's on her way to being a DC socialite, because I see her at I'm at stuff like, how you get in here? Oh, this is my thing. She's at every important event in DC. She's a communications guru, Miss Lauren B. Welcome back, Lauren.
Hey, good to be here. What's going on?
And I cannot forget my man.
Who's looking uninterested, like, yeah. Why? He's on his plane.
See who's following him now. He's an educator. He's a trainer. He's a mentor. And most importantly, he's a rider. He's a bike rider. I had to make sure I put it out there. His vocabulary is vast. His conversation is on another level. My man, Big Kev. What's good, brother? How's everything, man?
What's going on, man?
I want to make sure I welcome everybody back. And introducing everybody here, I just want to make sure I let everyone know, and I do a special shout out to some of our original folks that was on the show with us. Miss Yomi St. Wick, we think about you, we miss you, can't wait to have you back. We're a lot closer in now, so we don't have to go on the other side of Baltimore. We're in the Inner Harbor, where it's a lot more fun. We actually have a bar around the corner, some coffee and everything. So
breakfast, which I think is complimentary. I didn't see any.
But they might compliment you for order.
So they did charge you. It's not free. Okay,
that wasn't.
And I have to send a very special shout out to Aaron and Fisher, who helped us plan this. They are the coordinators and in charge of the living stage, which is where we're on. So I'm going to put a link in our show notes on if you want to come up here and be part of the living stage. This is something that the Hotel RL does on a regular basis. We're booked all the way through February. We're going to be coming back in March. We are set up to actually have a live audience. So if you're looking at us, you'll be able to sit right out there and
come be a part of the show.
Be a part of the show. It's going to be a lot of fun. Also, special shout out to our sponsor, Compliance with the Y. Compliance is a digital backpack that stores all your certifications, permits, licenses, all in one place. Compliance gives you 90 days, 60 days, 30 days, and pass-through reminders on all of your certifications. You'll never miss another renewal. You'll be compliant with compliance. I'll put them in our show notes as well. That's www.compliance.net. All right? Now, all that stuff is out of the way.
Wait a minute. We can't forget, we gave shout outs to our previous host. She forgot about Love, Miss Love Davis.
Oh, my bad.
Right here, a Baltimore native. How could you do
Love,
that?
I sent you a special invitation to come out. I know it was late, it was this morning. But you always have a spot here. Anytime. And if we're doing that, we also got a little love out to Miss Tia Hamilton.
Oh, yeah, Miss Tia Hamilton. Oh, yeah, WMSK Online, who put us on and gave us our first shot and opportunity. And, we're forever grateful for that. Indeed. We're getting to be like one of those daytime TV talk shows. Like, how many hosts have we gone through now? Not because we're bad or anything. Wow. You know what I
mean? Well, we had some logistics things going on.
We're like the Destiny's Child. I'm like, no, it's her. It's really her.
Real deal.
Right. But the one thing I want to say about the Culture Divide Experiment is it is fluid. So you're going to see us change around some stuff. You're going to see us on different places. This is going to be our home. We're going to be taking it again live, and you'll see shows from us on a weekly basis. So we have a lot of topics we're going to talk about. We're going to have some fun, and let's get into it. But I do want to know what's everybody been up to.
Oh man, everything.
Lauren, what you been up to?
Let me see. Living my best life.
Yeah.
Out here in these DC streets.
With the hair flip.
Like I
Flip a
almost
hair
caught you
flip.
in
You
the
see
hair
that?
right there,
Hold on, I have to give a special shout out to the lovely ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. We just had our Founders Day, so that's what the hair flip was for. You know,
It seems like everybody's Founders Day is like in the
It's
same
in
month.
January,
Is there
yes.
one month that they all started?
The only one that matters is J15. Everybody knows it. But no, I just had my Founders Day for my sorority. Let's see. I don't know, parenting, loving on my kids. They drive me crazy. I gotta put them in headlocks sometimes, but you know it's what it is.
It is what it is. It is what it is.
Not much, you know, still out here grinding, trying to build my empire, connecting the dots.
Yeah.
That's what I do. I'm connecting some dots this week.
Good.
I'll be making some business moves happen. I do my things low key though. I
Okay.
wait until it's ready and then I
Hey,
put it out.
keep it
I
silent
like
till
that.
you're
I
ready.
like that. Let it blow up. I
Bosses,
like that.
real bosses move in silence.
Yes.
They don't tell everybody everything.
Nope.
SJ, what you got going on?
Oh wow! I mean, I've been working on a lot of different things. I'm actually, believe it or not, actually penning my book as we speak. So you know, working on that, and you know, I've been globetrotting this year. I've been out here.
Where you been?
Where haven't I been? Is probably the better
You in
question.
Canada? Oh, not this year, but last year.
Well, yeah. See how quickly it went? It came and went. Yeah, Canada, West Coast. Spent a lot of time in both places, and just trying to do it. You know, trying to make some changes.
Excellent. Kev.
Yeah, let's talk about Kevin. Because if he don't talk about it, I'm going to talk about it.
Kev.
I said I wasn't going to talk about it, so I'm going to let him talk
To
it.
the meat and potatoes of it all.
Tell us what you're doing,
Tell
bro.
us what you're doing.
I am helping men achieve happiness. So
You're a joke.
right now, I am I'm using the talents and skills that I've had. You know, I teach communication in college. Now I am extrapolating that information. I'm bringing it up. Nigga, I teach college.
Did you just TI us extrapolating that information?
Well, I got the degrees, you know.
Y'all, he just TI'd y'all. He just extrapolated that information to get to the next connection of his destination.
But doesn't
Continue,
Kevin
please.
always do that? Doesn't he always do that? You're
So
like, what?
I'm
I
helping
don't even know
men.
what you're talking about right
I'm
now.
I'm helping men be happier with women and with their life, but primarily with women. So I'm doing date coaching now and helping these fellas get on their game because let's be honest, a lot of y'all spend a lot of weekends at home in the wintertime playing Fortnite and shit. I need to be playing some other things. So
gosh.
holler at me.
Keep it PG. Keep it PG.
Nigga, Introverted Kev on Instagram, on YouTube. You can follow my videos. Holler at me. Give me some, ask me if you need to talk about something, man. We're gonna get you straight, so that way you can leave your. You shouldn't be out here buying the next PlayStation. You should have other things to do. That's all.
So just so I'm clear, you are a dating coach.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to move right into our show now.
So I'm going to talk
Yeah,
about
Barry, guys.
I didn't get a chance to talk about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Working on my new book.
Yeah.
We're all going to have book release.
Oh yeah, but it's starting off with the podcast first. The podcast is going to be called "I'm a Bad Effing Employee," and I'm going to be focused on making sure that you, as a business owner, are hiring the right people. You, as a manager, are training the right people. You, as a frontline employee, are being called out when you know you're not that good of an employee, but you think just because you show up at 9 and leave at 5 that you really are. So we're going to have those type of conversations about, things that you think you're really good about, but the reality is you're really not that good. And we're going to work on how we get better, because I know for a fact I'm not the greatest employee. I know that. I'm taking that to heart. But it comes from not being in the right environment. So that's what the podcast.
Gotta get you on the right bus.
We got to get you on the right bus.
So here go the funny thing, because you're going to find out if you ain't no good employee with this furlough going on.
Right,
You got to go to work and you ain't getting paid.
Hey, listen. And at the
We're
same
going to
time,
find out who good employees right
you
there.
got to figure out your hustle too. You got to figure out if you're on the right hustle, because a lot of you know that I've been hustling for the last 20-some years, whether it be a bartender, other businesses that I've done, taking over my pop's painting business, so we've been doing some painting as well. So we're reaching out, we're trying to do some different things. So my heart goes out to all my folks that are on furlough. My heart, my prayers, we're with you. Check our page, we've been posting where you can get some groceries, some meals, and all those other things, so keep that in mind. Okay?
I mean, but let's really just pause there for a second, because every time you say that at home, I tell you, at what point do you stop hustling and you really live out your passion? We can have hustles all day and all night, but is hustling really what you want to do to achieve your dreams? You get what I mean? Hustle is a mindset of, this is something I'm doing at the moment to, make what I'm trying to achieve at this moment happen. Mm-hmm. But a hustle doesn't make you achieve your dreams, right?
Let me give you this thought though on that. You can now look at some things Barry doing. So you teach bartenders, you train bartenders. Mm-hmm. You wouldn't have that unless you were a bartender. So you had to start somewhere, get that knowledge, and then now you're able to pass it on.
True.
So I think what I know from Barry is he enjoys the art of educating people on different things.
But then at that point, it's not a hustle.
It's still a hustle.
Well, and I'll clarify in my own defense.
There you go. Let me not bury
that.
Let me not bury that.
Right. So I have always been a hustler, but for the last, I'm going to say 5 years, I've grown into this person that's a grower. So I want to make sure I'm always growing. Hustling means to me that I'm always on the grind, or I can't stop.
Right.
I want to make sure that I'm in a growth process where when I'm not working, something's still working for me.
Right.
So the hustle in me, when my younger days, I don't even have the energy to do that anymore.
Right.
But now it's more about how can I set things in process so that my money is coming in when I'm not working. So
I think it's the difference between the hustler, so being out hitting the pavement, mm-hmm. and then managing your hustle. Mm-hmm. When you actually achieve the passion, mm-hmm. and then like you said, you get to sit back and kind of see it do its own thing, right? So you got the hustler, but then you have the hustle. Mm-hmm. And I think to a certain extent, everybody has to decide what is your hustle, right? And then you have to capture that. That's your 2019 dream from me. There you go.
I like that because I was here, it was last month.
Yeah, last month.
For big shout out to Rachel, one of the authors behind Love Behind the Blue Line. Mm-hmm. And she was the one who introduced me to the folks here at Hotel RL on the Living Stage. So thank you very much, Rachel. But we were here, loved the place. Rachel's also, just to get everyone else caught up, we're going to be at her next event, which is the Mothers and Sons event. We're doing that again this year. We were there last year, had a great time. We're going to be doing that again. That's February 19th. So ladies, mothers with your sons, come on out, especially in the Baltimore area. There's going to be some amazing workshops. We're going to be doing a panel again, and just it's a growth period for all of us. And I forgot where I was going with that by even mentioning that. So we're going to move on. That's why you have like 3 other co-hosts that can kind of chime in at any time when they want to.
Just more dropping knowledge, man, and helping.
Something you'll also see that I'm sure we've done obviously in the past before, but we're going to do more of this year in 2019 is we're going to have exciting guests on stage,
definitely.
But not just having them here to ask them questions, but giving them an opportunity to talk about their hustle, but also giving you all an opportunity to ask them about how you can mirror their hustle too, right? So that's part of, I think, the beauty of an environment like this is that having you all here in the flesh, seeing the show in progress and actually being able to engage with us in real time, I think will absolutely change the dynamic for the better. So that's part of the switch to this environment is we want you all here real time, engaging with us, talking to us, pushing us and helping us push the needle too when it comes to the conversations that we're having with our guests.
I think we got a new segment, Hustle with Lauren. There we go.
I do connect dots. I'm a dot connector. That's what I do. I always know somebody who knows somebody.
Your network is your net worth.
It really is. So let's get into a topic here. And I just watched Blackish, which is one of my favorite shows right now. And I wish they had an hour-long show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I really wish that. I find that at the end of the show, I'm like,
you want more, right?
I want more.
Yeah.
They're closing it out. I'm like, no, we're not finished.
Yeah, the conversation can still go.
And I have to talk about what was on, I think it was this past week.
week.
Are you a colorist?
So I didn't get to watch the actual episode, so you'll have to give me some background.
Okay.
I saw some social media posts of it. I have an idea because Diane, which is the youngest daughter, was struggling because she felt like she's the darkest one in the family, right? But I didn't watch the episode, so give me some background.
So just to give you a quick synopsis, the Dre and what's mom's name? Rainbow. They came. They were looking at the class picture.
Jack and Diane.
Jack shows. You can see Jack clearly, but Diana was up in the upper right-hand corner, and the lighting was off, so you could not see her. They just looked at, where's Diane? And they could not find her. And it was like, oh. So they were in outrage. They called the principal. It was like, we're coming down, and you know how Dre's in the background. We're going to come down and handle our business, Rainbow, handle that. Kick her in. I'm not going to kick anybody, their normal comedic ways. But then it grew into something else where, so the mother comes in, the grandmother comes in, and she was like, what's going on? And she's like, Diane wasn't lit properly in the picture.
The lighting,
The lighting was wrong. And she said, oh, we're going down to see the principal, and
No,
talk
she
about
said
this.
it's Rainbow. Going to go beat up the principal.
Exactly, she's going to go beat up the principal. At that point, it became this thing of in the house where it was light-skinned folks against dark-skinned folks.
Well, they felt like that's how it always was, but this was the first time they were having the conversation about it.
So the family, if you watch Blackish, is truly a rainbow. You have different spectrums in there, and it's the first time they actually talked about it.
Okay.
So I love the fact that the oldest son, he's coming to his own now. He is not afraid of his father anymore.
And
Junior.
He gives good singers too.
Yeah.
With Dre, he's good. It's classic.
He's giving them some serious stuff now, and he was like, "Oh, we're having the colorist conversation." He said, "Because all you guys are colorists," and of course Dre's like, oh, "Why would you say something like that?" He's like, "Yeah." So then Junior and Rainbow are on one side because they're the fair skin and lighter skin, and he's like, "Y'all always make jokes about us, and like the mom and Dre are like, what? Well, we don't make any jokes about you guys. And then it became this thing was like, all right, the second we make a joke, then it's hurtful. But when you guys make jokes, like it's funny, it's light skin privilege and all that type of stuff. So I thought it was interesting how they were having this dynamic inside the family. Not outside. And even Dre got into it about the whole brown paper bag thing, where at some point you couldn't get into the function or the party if you didn't have the
or certain sororities or fraternities.
If you didn't have pass the brown paper bag theory. So I'm so glad we have some representation of it. I felt the shade.
You felt it on my face.
Right. She just flipped her hair. I'm like to move.
But I understand the historical relevance of what you're saying. Right? There was a time where that stereotype, true or not, was widely known. I said true or not was widely known or held. So I understand what you're trying to say.
So within the family became a friction.
Okay.
Even to the point where I can't remember the mom's name, who she's been around forever, but I love her role on there because she is powerful.
Yes.
And Diane actually got upset after everyone
Jennifer
was arguing.
Williams, right?
Yes, Jennifer Lewis.
Lewis.
Powerful actress. I've been watching you for years. I mean, I love the fact when she comes out and she
wrote a book called, I think, Hollywood's Mother or Mother of Black Hollywood or something like that.
And she, after they the arguments escalated. And everyone kind of went their separate ways. Diane finally chimed in, was like, the reason why I don't like talking about color is because how important it is, how bad it makes me feel. So like then they gave examples of she's in the nurse's office,
the Band-Aid,
and they put a Band-Aid on her knee, and then it's a young white girl next to her, and the Band-Aid matches perfectly. But on Diane's skin tone, it's just out there.
Right.
And I can't remember the other example where.
Well, the lipstick. It was red lipstick. And it was a darker skinned woman that said, no, sweetie.
We don't wear that.
Women our complexion don't wear that color.
But this is the one. This is the one that's I've been hearing this since I was yay-high. Oh, you're pretty for a dark skin girl.
Yeah.
And like to hear someone say that, and you're pretty for a dark skin. Why can't you just be pretty? Why can't you just be beautiful?
Yeah, that's like you're giving a compliment and taking it back.
Right. So that's where the whole colorist thing came from. So
what was the resolution on the show? Like, how did it end?
So they always wrap it up at the end. With a hug. The mom realized that she was being hurtful to Rainbow and promised not to be that way because Rainbow at some point lashed out and was like, "You're a monster."
And she was like, "No, I'm
and
not."
she was like, "I'm not a monster. That's what they called me when I was a child. I am no one's monster." And it was a powerful moment. And like I said, I wish it could have been a whole hour-long show because they could have gone way deeper, but that's what we're here for.
Right,
we're gonna
right.
Go deep into
yeah.
it.
I mean, basically, it was just a thing of Rainbow not understanding the challenges that Dre's mom had went through as a child growing up, being the darker-skinned child in her family, because her family was part Creole, so everyone else was of fair skin. So where she felt like she was always lashing out at her, she didn't realize that the things that she was saying were hurtful to her as well. So I think that we all experience it. I mean, we can go down all our family.
I was going to say, we probably all have more than enough story and information.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, today, so it's actually interesting. I have 2 kids. I have a son and a daughter. And literally my kids look split. Like my daughter looks just like her dad and then my son looks just like me, which essentially means like I have one brown child and then I have one fair-skinned child.
Yeah.
And depending on where we are, people will automatically say, "Oh, she looks just like her dad." Just strictly based. I mean, they don't even take a time to look at her face.
Just based on complexion.
Just based on her complexion, and then they'll look at my son and say, "Oh, he looks just like you." Again, without even looking at the features or taking that into consideration. And for a little while, my son, I believe, was kind of struggling with that.
Right.
Like, why am I brown? Why is my sister more fair? And in my home, the way I grew up, and I don't know if this is a New York thing or what it is, but I didn't grow up with family members who talked about color often. And I don't know how to describe that. Like, it just wasn't a conversation. It was, and I have a rainbow of a family.
And you just black, you black.
Right, and it was just like, you black, you black. Like, that's just what it is, you know? And like, even my grandmother is very fair, but like, we just, it wasn't a conversation. It was just like, we all family, we all here together. It doesn't matter what color you are, it doesn't matter what the texture of your hair is. But then I have friends who grew up below the Mason-Dixon line, as I like to say, who grew up in Maryland and below, and that was a conversation in their house all the time.
Right.
And it was not a conversation of, and these are, my friends and I, we're in our 30s, right? So we're not talking about, we grew up in the 60s or something like that. Like, we grew up in the 80s, 90s. And for my friends who I have, they always tell me that the conversations were in joking, like we're in laughing manner, similar to what Blackish was trying to say, like, oh, with your high yellow self, you acting real light-skinned.
Right.
And I never understood how, I really didn't understand the effect of it until 2 of my girlfriends kind of were at opposite ends on things. And one girlfriend is dark brown skin and the other one is fair skin. And my fair-skinned girlfriend was like, I've always had people come and attack me because I'm light-skinned. Like, I've always had girls who didn't like me because I'm fair-skinned. And then my brown-skinned friend was like, well, I've always felt like light-skinned women think they're better than me because they're light-skinned. And so I've always had a disposition towards light-skinned women because I automatically walk in the room like, oh, she thinks she's better than me.
Right.
And for me, I walk in the room like, I'm just happy to see black people here. Like, I'm like, oh, it's another sister. Like that, and that is my mindset because that's the way I was raised. I just wasn't. It's not that I don't see the differences, but I don't see it as a dividing thing.
Right. Yeah.
It's not a dividing thing. I see it as a like, oh, we're different, but we're black.
Right.
Right. Whereas a lot of my friends see it as like a divide line in the sand.
No, it's funny you mentioned that, and Kevin, let me just say this one thought before I forget. You mentioned when you walk into certain rooms, like I can speak from corporate America, being in that type of environment. It doesn't matter what color you are. You look up and you see somebody of another color or brown, light, doesn't matter. You giving a head nod like, I see you, thank God there's another one in here. You know, because I'm feeling lonely right now.
Right, but that only works for that environment where if I walk into that room and I give Kev the head nod, that he even is on the same wavelength, because there are a lot of times you walk into a room and it's one more person and they ain't on that page with you.
Right.
So you like, oh, what's up? And he's like,
they brand new.
Yeah, because they're trying to keep the social contract. It depends on what situation you're in. Now, to your point, on my father's side, we all about the same color. And my father's family is very small. On my mother's side, however, she got like 7 different, I think it was like 6 or 7 brothers, gamut of color scheme, you know what I'm saying? And when I used to go visit them, I never looked at them as, oh, you're lighter, so you're better, or you're worse because you're darker, or something like that. I just was like, they my family. They just people. I never had that, and I always wondered why, like, I think, and I want to say that I think it might be a female thing because I don't see, my mother had many brothers, but she only had one sister, and her sister is like the spectrum from between me and you. Whole different color. My grandmother is dark skinned, but mom came out like my complexion. So it didn't, I don't think because of them they may have had issues, but because they were the only two females.
It's not a female thing. It's
but
not.
I've never seen families where they like. I don't like what you're saying. I don't understand why a family.
Yeah, but in our community, so you know this because you're college educated, and you know in our community what the color divide, what it did. You know what it did in the slave fields, right? You know what it did when we were slaves, and you know what it did when we moved to New Orleans, and there were a whole community of free black people who were Creole, and then the Creole people who had slaves, who owned slaves, who were enslaved. You know, so like you know what it did to our community. I don't think it's a female thing at all. I just think that it depends.
I mean, now I'm talking about now. Like
it's not because even like for example on the show, Junior gave an example. We've all seen the video where they had the albino lion, and because he was the light skinned or he was an albino lion, they've got his hair straightened and he's singing at this high pitch. You know, and then I've seen it. It went around social media.
Okay, we should not laugh.
But the point that he was making is but the point that they were making is that because he was a lighter skin tone, that he had to be soft, or that he was more feminine. Yes. And I mean, and I think that's. I know that a lot of that comes from the history. You know what I mean? Like in the history, what it was is that the darker skinned man, he was out in the fields, like you said, whereas the lighter skinned male had the cushier job of being in the house. So I get where the connotations come from, but it's not fair. Like no one should look at anybody, male or female, and say, "Oh, you're real handsome for a dark skinned dude." You'd be like, "What? Like what?" I'm either handsome or I'm not, or I'm either beautiful or I'm not. It's the same thing if someone says, "Oh, you know what? You dress really nice for a fat girl." What? You'd be like, that's giving me a compliment, but taking it back.
Bizarre world is something.
Exactly. But people say things like that, and it's that whole mindset of that's even when someone says, "Oh, I like your little shoes."
Why my shoes gotta be little?
Right.
I gotta be little. Like I can't give you a compliment without taking something away.
Oh, funny story. I have a friend of mine, and I won't say his name because he's probably watching, but he says that I'm that person like your little shoes, your little hat, your little purse. I don't do that, but I understand what you're trying to say. It's this backwards, you know, compliment. It's not really a compliment.
No, it's not.
It's shade, you know. It's like, oh, no shade, just tease.
And you've got to call people out on that. Yeah. When people say things like that, if someone says that to me, like, "Oh, I like your little purse." Okay, so I take it that you really don't like it. Really like right, it. You don't really like it, right? You know what I mean? Like
what they're really saying is, oh, so you think you're cute.
Yeah, it's like, don't compliment me to try to feel like you need something to say. I'm a strong believer in if I don't have anything nice or positive to say, you will see that I'm quiet.
I think it's also,
and I think more people need to practice that.
I think it's also a reminder of how much work we have to do.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Not just in our community, but in society, and why these conversations will but there's still so much time for us to continue to have these conversations and continue to look for ways to combat those things, right? Because it's just so clear that this is still an issue, that it's still a very sensitive subject for a lot of people involved, and it's like, what do we need to do to get out of that mindset? Like, how do we break the chains? How do we get people just looking at each other uniquely for who we are and not for like what is on the surface?
Well, I have to say this too. I mean, and 20 years ago, we all remember what BET looked like.
Oh yeah.
And BET had a certain look.
What do you mean?
Light, bright.
Only one. I'm still trying to figure out how Donnie Simpson got
AJ.
No, I mean,
the eyes and the hair.
Okay, so when you say that, you have to give some reference because he's talking about the 90s of AJ, Free, Tigger. That's what
they look like.
Before that. We're talking about when
we couldn't afford cable.
Right.
So I'm talking about back in the day.
I guess that was more like the 80s.
That was when Donnie Simpson had his show and he was hosting. And
y'all bougie. I had money. Y'all bougie.
I don't know about that.
We were talking about that. Comcast A and B, the A and B section. You had to push the button.
Comcast cable.
Yeah, it was Comcast back then.
I don't know if it was a Comcast, but basically, BET had a certain look, and if you were not of the fair skin,
but that was based on Bob Johnson's preference
and thought and ideas at the time.
I guess attorneys or something.
No, I'm not going to go that route because that was shade thrown over there. But I'm going to keep it on BET for now. BET has been taken over by Viacom. Bob Johnson, they sold, they made the shit. He's making millions, billions, or something. But I'm talking about the images because at one point growing up, going to college, it was all about the light skinned chicks.
Right.
That's where we grew up. It was like all about and then I remember getting into college and it was like, wow. Yeah, I mean I did, and then when I got to college, I woke up and saw because on every video, every movie, like New Jack City, I can't
Sugar Hill.
All of it. That was the aspiration. That was the look, and that's all we saw.
The power of media.
The power of media. But then when I got to college and saw all these beautiful brown sisters, it was like, oh my God, I've been missing out all this.
Like and they
but I think but even in that statement right there, it's saying so much. And the statement, you have to look at it. There was nothing wrong with dating a light-skinned black woman. And there's nothing wrong with dating a brown-skinned black woman or a dark-skinned black woman. The point is that society led us to believe that one was more preferred over the other.
Absolutely.
Because everybody, no matter what shade you are, even if you go outside your race, there's beautiful women and people everywhere.
Yes,
and that's
Sharice, you better say that, girl. You better say that, girl.
And that's the thing that we miss. I mean, and I teach my son that. Like, love has no shade or color.
As long as you're loving somebody for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Then
okay, so we're gonna
dating coach
segment next week, right? Next week.
But you said that so eloquently because no shade, just T Berry. But you made a comment. Look at all these beautiful brown sisters, and I understand that you're trying to highlight the fact that you were so long programmed to look at fair-skinned women, and you were programmed to not acknowledge the beauty of the brown-skinned woman. But I think dating expert, and this is me giving you hold on. This is me giving you this is me giving you something to share with men. Don't ever walk up to me and tell me that I'm a beautiful brown woman. There's nothing complimentary about that comment. I'm either a beautiful woman or I'm not. And a lot of brothers think it's cute to be like, you a beautiful, sexy chocolate. And I'm like, I don't know if you're saying it to, like, I don't know, be complimentary, or are you saying it to like confirm something in yourself?
Right. Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
They're not confirming.
Well, I mean, and
it kind of comes off like they're saying it to confirm something in themselves, like some blackness in themselves.
But that goes back to even when I tell my son, love has no color. Love who you want to love, and even if you choose to be with someone that's outside of your culture or of a different race, always be able to look back at your own people and see beauty. This is where, and that takes us like into that conversation where people are like, oh, well, this black man is with someone of another race. I could care less as long as he's not self-hating. It's those guys that I'm concerned for and feel sad for, because those are the ones that spew the negative things like, oh, I don't date people of this color because of this, that, and the other. Well, that's your thing, and that has to do with you. That don't have nothing to do with nobody else but you. That's your own mess that you need to internally work out and get together.
You better say it, girl.
I was just going to say that growing up, now, when you were talking, I was just thinking about the women who I liked growing up, childhood crush and stuff. And like elementary, middle school, I always found darker skinned women more attractive. Like, not on a general scale, but they would catch my eye more if they were attractive. They would catch my eye more than the light-skinned girl who was attractive. That was just my thing.
That's your preference. There's nothing wrong with having a preference.
It's just that it to me, it's like I like beautiful women. It doesn't, that doesn't matter across the board. But when I saw attractive dark-skinned women, it seemed to invoke more of an image to me.
And that's okay.
And I had But even like one of the shows I watched as a kid was Saved by the Bell, and they had the old girl Lark Voorhees on there.
Lark Voorhees.
Oh my Lord, she was so beautiful.
Yeah.
I was like,
Oh my Lord.
good God, get her off that show. Let me holler. Now she's like crazy or something. Now she's not crazy anymore.
Mental health issues.
No, she suffers from being bipolar and having mental health issues, and it went undiagnosed for a long time. And
I think that's not what it was.
Yeah,
I think what it was the fact that she was a childhood celebrity. And
that probably had a lot to do with it.
A lot of them.
You're kind of thrust into the limelight, and then once that's gone, you don't really know how to operate. I'm just a regular person. Not regular person, but I'm just a regular person.
Yeah.
I don't got a whole crew of people doing this and doing
Well,
that.
I mean, it goes back to
your
circle and the people of support you had there to support you, and she had her parents, her mother, and her mother wasn't, according to the articles, not really there for her either in the way that she needed her to be to get her.
So in 2019, we are acknowledging that beauty exists everywhere.
Oh yeah,
everywhere.
Love who you want to love, no matter what color, race, sex.
And you said it very eloquently, Therese. You said the concern is not someone who dates outside the race. Your concern is the person who dates outside the race and self-hates.
Yeah.
And doesn't have the ability to see the beauty in who they are, and as such, not see the beauty in their race.
Yeah, that's the sad part.
Real quick, because we do have some extra folks that actually started chiming in and watching. So we are talking about right now the Blackish episode where colorism and being a colorist inside of our own race, where we kind of show less love or more love for light or darker skin tones. So for those of Big Terry, thanks for chiming in. I see you over there, Derica. Thank you for chiming in as well and watching. But that's the subject we're talking about, and it's getting heat because I can still feel the shade that Kev is throwing over here to Lauren B.
Well, Lauren you got to remember. So we had these images that we saw on TV. School Days. That was my movie growing up. Okay, and School Days epitomized. And actually, when I say epitomize it more so made fun of those stereotypes. Because part of it was true depending on what university you were at, which HBCU you were at.
And Spike Lee went to Morehouse.
Right.
Yes.
And then there was also to bring it to light to have the conversation. The same thing that Blackish and Grownish does. They bring these things out because now we have a platform where we can reach more people, so we get to talk to more people of other color, but we also get to bring other cultures in on things that they have no knowledge of and no understanding of. And they get to see, and they're like, oh, wow. How many of you have coworkers of people that, are outside of your race, and they're like, I love Blackish, and they say it like that because they're waiting to see what your response is. Are you going to be like, I like Blackish too?
So hold on, it's actually interesting. So it's actually interesting that you brought up School Days. I'm so happy that you brought up School Days because I literally threw a Greek mixer on Thursday night for a couple of the students who live on my property that I oversee. And so all of the kids came out, and I told them all they had to wear their paraphernalia and everything, whatever. So they all came out. We had the cues out there. We had
their Greek paraphernalia.
We had the cues. We had my sorors with the AKAs come out, the deltas. And it was funny, to your point, to hear us all kind of poke fun at all the stereotypes.
Yeah.
Because we were doing that during the mixer. Like, the cues was like, AKA sure know how to serve a man, because I had put it together. The food was right. My sorors was like, we always do it right. The K's always coming through, right? So, and one of them said something to the extent of,
because y'all was house.
AKAs were bougie. What? And the Deltas, a little more real, down to earth. They sisters, they fight. And I just first of all, I was offended for both sororities, because I feel like we have equal levels of class, integrity, and character, period, point blank. That being said, you bringing up School Days is right on par. Like, it just reminds me again how this conversation has to continue to happen, because the stereotypes are still lingering there in our community.
Lingering or there?
Well, think about
They're there. They're there.
We're just having a conversation. Blackish brought it up, and we weren't even talking about fraternities or sororities. We're still looking at people.
Oh, no, because you can't talk about fraternities and sororities on TV. Those shows get pulled.
Yes, they do.
Because you got, they send emails and letters, and they protest and stand outside your building and stuff.
Think about this. I'm going to get this interesting, kind of a different thought. When you are very, very fair-skinned as a black person, to some degree, you have to prove your blackness even more.
And I feel like it goes overboard sometimes.
And that's what I'm kind of getting to. And sometimes you have to over exert yourself. Like, remember the light skinned dude that was on a different world?
Ron?
Not him. It was the other dude. He was always wearing the dashikis and stuff. He was like a side character. He wasn't like the main dude. But he was always trying to he was power to the people all the time.
He had some strong name like Mustafa.
Yeah. With the dreads. That we all drooled over back then.
But even with someone like you think about now, what's that dude named Sean King? The dude that's always talking about black people issues on Twitter and stuff. Sean King is a pretty I'm just saying he's a pretty light-skinned person.
King, and I will defend him.
If you just let me talk.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying that he has become a very heavy voice for black people when there have been black people darker than him who have been doing the same thing, and yet they're not always esteemed to the same degree, I would say. Like, think about Mark Hill. He's a little darker than me, and so he's been CNN correspondent stuff, but when you talk about larger scale issues, now they're both reporters. You know, that's their trade. It seems to be that when Sean Hill,
Mark Lamont Hill has, in my own opinion, has a way larger reach than Sean King does.
You think so?
Absolutely. He's national. He's not just in the black community, but he's nationally known.
So is Sean King. He's the one that brought. He's the one that brought.
I think more people know Hill than they know King when you're talking about people who don't know issues. For the person who doesn't know, who's not in tune or who's not plugged into news and things like that, they would more recognize Hill because he has been on CNN, he's been on MSNBC, he's been on BET, he had a show on VH1 for a little while. They would know his face way more than they know. How
old is he?
Hill?
Yeah.
I don't know how old he is.
Hey man, you gotta give us some health tips, dude, because the dude don't age, man. Him and Pharrell.
But they did that on the 10-year challenge with Pharrell. It was like the same picture.
50-year challenge.
They're like a big deal for years, right?
Hey, let me just say this, Lindell. Thanks for chiming in, and she was talking about light-skinned, green eyes. He's on point. Shaza.
There you go, Shaza. Thank you, Lindell. I know somebody out there would know. I mean, but even if you think about it on a different level, so this just isn't a black issue, African American issue, because I had a good girlfriend when I lived in
Brazil,
Houston, and she was actually Korean and black.
Yes.
And she said growing up it was hard for her because she spent some time living in Korea with her Korean mother, and Korean people did not accept her because she was considered a half-breed by their terms. She said she actually had to go to the hospital because a Korean man had cracked a broom over her head. They treated her like that bad. But then on this other side, back in America, the little black girls didn't want to play with her because she had long hair, fair skin. And it's like, oh, you think you're cute. You think you're better than everybody else. You don't have to get your hair pressed or straightened. And so you think about that, it happens across cultures. Because even if you take the black part out of the mix, when you take people that are of different Asian descents, that, you know,
like in India, where you see the whiting posters everywhere, and they still have a caste system in India, and typically the people on the bottom of the caste system are darker skinned Indians, and Brazil's like that, but it's like that in Korea, it's like that in China too. You actually do have dark skinned Chinese people, dark skinned Korean people, and so forth, and they deal with the same issues that we deal with in the black community when it comes to colorism. And that's because of colonism.
I was about to say.
That is because the Europeans went around colonizing everybody, and they put themselves on the pedestal, and so everybody was affected by that colonism period. And now here we are, all wanting to reach our highest whiteness is possible. I'm not saying we do want to, but I'm just saying, like, theoretically speaking, you have communities of people across the world who think white is right.
Right. And so that's what we were taught for the longest time. Yeah. Like, even if you go, and again, I got to go back to the work world, where you assimilate so that you're more acceptable in certain places, so that I fit in better.
Right.
We have conversations like this all the time where there's certain projects you may be on, and if you are a person of color and you are part of like kind of the right crew, and all the other black folks are looking at you, well, how'd you get in there?
Yeah.
Why they like you like that? What'd you do? What are you saying to them?
I had a job interview. My mother was like, "So you gonna wear your braids?" I said, "Yes."
Well, the difference
because it was like you can't wear your braids to the job interview because you might not get the job because of your braids.
But now that's changed.
It has changed
everywhere, right?
My mother's in her 60s, but
right.
But it has changed. But in her head, it was like, well, you need to go get a perm and go flat iron your hair and go do something with. Like, have you guys seen Napoli Ever After?
Oh,
yeah, we watched that.
I just got chills.
That was my mother was Lynn Whitfield. My mother was Lynn Whitfield. It was like, what you want to do with your hair,
right?
And like, make sure your eyebrows is right. What you want to do with your nails, and it's all out of love. It's not out of self-hate or anything like that. It's not self-hate.
This is the best thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's her trying to make sure I'm looking the right way so that I can be in the right place.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that. In this day and age, some of that is just our own stuff, right? My hair is natural, but I usually go get it washed and straightened. But there is a time where when I first cut it short and was wearing it always in its natural state, in its curly natural state, that before I would get ready to go back on a project, I would go get it straightened. Not because they said I had to, but it made me feel more comfortable in their space that they wouldn't look at me like. And then one day came up where I didn't have the time to make it to the salon, so it was me rocking it natural, and I was so surprised that they were all just like, I love it. I love your hair. And I got the stories of, back in the 60s, I used to rock a fro too. And I'm laughing like, seriously, what? Or I wore a perm to get my hair like yours. I wanted Donna Summer hair. Yeah. You know what I mean? And to hear that from people of another culture, another race, you're sitting there like, okay, wow, so this is me.
Alex Trebek used to wear afro.
But yes, he did. But part of that comes from our experiences, because I've also worked in work environments where if I'd have worn that, someone would have said something. And it wouldn't have been said directly to me. It would have been said to someone else to communicate to me.
I love the fact that we are changing in the right direction.
Oh yeah.
I love the fact that you can wear your braids to an interview.
Oh yeah.
I love the fact that
I like rocking big hoops, and I wear big hoops to work now.
I'm loving our new Congress right now, where so many women, and they're pushing the envelope because they're not going in with the traditional blue suit of what you used to have to do because that was how you conform.
Right.
I love to see the change that we're having. I want more. I want to see more, and that's where all of us come in to make sure we kind of be more comfortable in our own skin.
We got to have these conversations, and we got to bring more people to the table to have these conversations. It can't just be, blacks talking to blacks about black issues. Yes, we understand that as a race of people, we have things to work on, and that is where that conversation is black on black. But then there's sometimes it's okay to bring other people in just because a lot of things that go on are due to sheer ignorance. They just don't understand. They just have no knowledge of.
I think it's the difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy meaning you see something and you can kind of imagine and be like, oh, that's bad, but you're comfortable in your skin, and so you can just walk past it.
Yeah.
Whereas empathy is you really get an in-depth knowledge of the thing, and then you're able to relate it to your own life, and then act on some kind of change, like help the process of changing that person's circumstance. That's the difference, is like just them being aware that black people have issues, but then actually coming to the table, sitting down, dissecting those issues, and then understanding what role they play in helping us overcome those obstacles.
Yeah, and I think that as a group of people, we have to be mindful too that while we have come from, an oppressed culture of people, that we've come so far. And even if we're talking about Blackish, they had the episode of when they were deciding whose family got to have which holiday, and Dre felt offended by Bo's biracial family, the people of Caucasian that were Caucasian that didn't want to eat their food because they're like, well, it's just a little high calorie, high fat. And they brought beets, and Dre was like, I'm offended. No, and he said that actually. That was actually his joke. He was like, beets by Dre, and they're like, no, beets. And he's like, you bring beets to my table, and he had that issue. And so one of them said,
we don't eat beets, we want cranberries.
No, he said,
no, you're missing the point.
The thing that the guy said was after Dre had his whole rant about the beets. The guy said, I bring beets because that's all my grandmother back during when she was escaping
Nazis.
The Nazi camp. That's what she had.
The cans were the easiest things to grab and carry.
She said,
and that's how
exactly.
they had beef.
And he said that's what we ate. And he said, and I do that as a remembrance to her, and so my children can experience
technology, their legacy,
but the funny thing was, Dre had to take a seat, and it was like, sat down. Okay.
So here's the issue I see.
He was like, well, give me a beat. Let me just
So here's something that I see about that. Why is it that then, I guess, because I don't watch the show, and it's not because I don't want to, it's just I don't really watch TV that much.
Right.
So I'm assuming that Dre is this black kid.
Dre is Anthony Anderson's character.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why is it that he had to be sensitive to that experience, but if he said, the fact that you're saying that my food is high in calorie, high fat.
No,
that's what you slave.
No, they turned around and he explained that.
So they explained that.
I was wondering why we still eat it.
They all ate each other's food.
But I just wonder why we still eat it. Like, seriously, why are you still eating chitlins?
Some of it is good.
I don't eat chitlins. I do not eat chitlins.
There is a video that I saw on Twitter where they were cleaning chitlins. And if you think it's disgusting, you know it is exactly what you think it is.
It is.
And I'm
You're
like,
absolutely
dude,
right.
that looks
horrendous. But you also have to realize, and this is what most people fail to. This is what most people miss. It's just not a staple in the African American community. Chinese people eat it too. And other cultures where they do not waste any part of the animal, it's eaten too. So it's not like it's a black thing. What might have happened in the black community is we actually made it taste good.
No, we just fed that shit. No, we fed that shit though.
She tried it.
No. So what I'm saying is. It wasn't
waste if you throw it into a compost pile.
It wasn't. So you have to think about
it. Eat the ham and the.
So it wasn't so much as that's what they were fed. That's what they were given. They were given the scraps.
Exactly.
So they had to take the scraps and survive.
That's why each whole piece.
And that's why. It's heavy with fat. It's heavy with salt because you had to take something that basically had no flavor, had nothing, and make it something so that you and your family could sustain. I mean, you ever had pig feet? That's just like gelatinous stickiness, and I've watched people cooking.
And I used to eat it growing up.
I watched people cooking and put all this seasoning in it, and I'm like, okay, you know what? I don't eat pig feet, but I'm gonna try because that look good. Taste, and I'm just like, nope, just gelatinous stickiness. Thank you. And I'm not knocking anybody.
It tastes like cholesterol. It tastes like a heart
attack. But I'm also the person who doesn't like steak fat either. So
no, you gotta get that fat on that bread.
Here's my thing.
Trim it off.
But my point, I'm not knocking anyone who eats those things because I understand culturally where it comes from. All I'm saying is the conversation has to be broadened, and we just got to bring more people to the table. No, we don't need your handouts. We don't need you to do these things. We just need to have the conversation so that it's not so awkward, so it's not uncomfortable, and so that we're not socially insensitive to one another. Because I think that's really what it comes down to is social and insensitivity, where you're just like, why would you?
When you know better, you do better.
Indeed.
You know.
I just want to end it with this because we were supposed to be doing like a 30-minute show, but we got so into this, and we're about 51 minutes, and we are just because it's easier, But just so you know, we are going to be having a show. We're having a show every week. Mm-hmm. Okay. Sometimes it'll be live, sometimes it'll be taped. So we're actually going to make sure we're going to put it out there for you. The other thing to it is thank you very much everyone who's chiming in. Thank you very much Lindell for letting us know it was Shaza, that's it.
Shaza.
And all your comments. And Lindell, you are truly black, girl. I mean, hands up. Seriously.
I was going to say right there. We all know light-skinned people that I think are sometimes in some cases I'm like, well, you are way more black than I could ever be.
That's what I said.
You got your black card, and I can't take that from you.
Yeah, nothing at all. Somebody just question my blackness.
Challenging you with your blackness.
Right.
And I mean, you just can't beat that stereotype.
I think it was that the need of being. I am what I am, even if you don't see it.
Oh yeah.
Versus me walking out, and I'm not the darkest guy, but I knew, like when I was in elementary school, I was in the tag program. Mm-hmm. So all the people in my bus stop was white kids. Mm-hmm. I knew I was black, so I didn't have to overly assert that I do not conform. I don't fit in with y'all. It was obvious to me. They used to throw snowballs with rocks in them at me. because I was the black kid. It wasn't because I was the younger. That's what. So I knew I was not like them. It wasn't no ifs and or buts about that.
Right.
And that was my experience going into classes where one out of it may have been 2 out of 28 kids was black. So it was me and this one other kid. I'm always had mostly white teachers, and so they're always pinpointing me as the problem kid. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And that was
probably
my
were
whole
though, Kevin.
experience.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I ain't had nobody at home to talk to. I mean, like, you gonna talk to kids. Like, if you a kid, you gonna talk to kids. And when you see kids, it's not in school.
No.
But that was, it was obvious to me. But if I was very, very light skinned, I may have fit in and blended in a little bit. Or maybe even the parents may have made me do that to kind of conform to it. So I kind of flew under the radar about doing that. Now, in my household, we didn't grow up with a lot of, I would say, black cultural reference, and it wasn't anti. It was just that we just didn't do it. My father was, Marine, life Marine, but even that we didn't have like a bunch of American flags around. So he just wasn't into, showcasing the bravado.
Right.
I had to learn it on my own. I used to like reading the books, and my grandmother had bought me a set of books. And he talked about different people in Black history and stuff like that, and I just enjoyed to look at it, and I wondered why. We didn't talk so much about it in my classes. We always talked about, like, I remember going to the Holocaust Museum when I was in 5th grade or something like that. I do remember we went to the Black and Wax Museum here in Baltimore when I was a kid. I felt so the feeling, the imagery.
When you go in that place?
Yes. They walk you right through you right into the slave ship.
I was too young for that.
They walk you right in the slave ship, and I was shook. I was shook, man.
I was probably 13. So at 13, it shook me at 13.
I was 22, and I was like, no, I'm feeling like a certain type of way.
Then they had their arms reaching out at you.
Yes.
It's like, when you first walk in, it's the slave ship, and you in the bow.
Like when you see how they have folks laid out, I was like,
you are in the bow.
I actually haven't been there yet. Have never been there. I've heard stories about it, but I haven't been.
To the Black Museum in D.C.
I haven't been there
but I think this experience is way more palpable.
That's what I heard.
That shit is,
that's what I heard. I mean, I just think that everything we've said has been great, and I think that we need to keep having those conversations, because the biggest thing that at least I know I find is that the more conversations you have, the more it opens up, so that, because we live in this world where when we talk about our issues as a culture of people look and they're like, oh, it's like they try. It's almost like, here we go again, or as I was told once, you're always talking about race. It's always the color issue. Well, really, that's my world. I can't live without there being a color issue. Not because that's what I want to keep going on.
This is why I love this woman.
But that's the reality of it. You know what I mean? and I am that person that if you ask me, we're going to talk. Like, don't start the conversation if you're not comfortable with me. And it's not because I want it to continue to be that.
It's my world.
But that's my world. Yes. And the funny thing is, this will not be our children's world. Because right now, our little kids go to school with kids of other color, and all they see is a kid.
That's it.
Well,
that's
all
it.
We did, but that's all we did until we got older and started realizing
right,
the
but
that play.
So if you look at
ain't nothing changing. Donald Trump is in power.
So
right
Donald
now.
Trump is in power, but still, if you look at the and I forget what the exact number of, but the percentage of those people is so much smaller than. He's making it seem like it's bigger than what it is.
But it was always small. They just have the authoritative
right.
power.
Right.
You only see that, you only see that because ICE ain't knocking at your door.
No, true. I get that.
That's why you see it as, well, my kids can go with the white kids.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
You don't have the fear of them going to try to figure out, are you a real American citizen?
Oh, no, I totally get it. I totally get it. I have people that I completely understand. But what I'm saying is, in this generation of millennials, they don't see it like how we experienced it. I remember being a little girl driving through Montana and having a Caucasian little girl say to me, "Why is your skin so dirty?"
But you in Montana.
So dirty.
You should have said, why your sister.
The point is, my skin wasn't dirty. I hadn't been playing in the dirt. I was clean. No, dirty. She had not seen anyone that looked like me before. Whereas in this world and in this generation, it's different. There is a difference.
I want my kids to be very aware and very knowledgeable. I talk about me and my son. Specifically because he's 10, talk about race all the time for a reason, because he's a boy and he's black.
Yeah.
Or he's black and he's a boy. However way you want to.
Yes.
But we literally talk about it all of the time. I let the little boy ask me whatever he wants to because he needs to understand what he is walking into. And at the end of the day, the majority, as they like to consider themselves, still has the authoritative power when it comes to hiring practices, right. When it comes to creating policies that run my land, corporate cultures, they still have the authoritative power. And I have to assume that they mean him harm because of what's happening right now. Exactly. And because I have to assume that they mean him harm, and because I have to assume that they don't want to see my young black boy excel, I have to prepare him that way. He has to know for every contingency.
So I'm not saying that racism goes away.
No.
I'm saying that their reality of racism versus ours versus our parents' reality is going to be different. It will be lessened.
No, it won't be. It will be worse because now it is covert. It is masked. It is veiled. It ain't overt. It ain't. I don't like you black people.
Well, see, I think it used to be covert. Now it's
no.
It's in your face.
I think it's in your face, bro.
No, it was in your face Jim Crow era about what your experience is without listening to your experience.
Here's why it's kind of covert now. The reason that it's kind of covert now is because of the policies.
They use policies
to pretend. They use policies to pretend that we are all equal, right? Because they're trying to challenge affirmative action and they're trying to say that we no longer need it because we have policies that have created equality. But what black people have been asking for, which most people I think can agree with, is not equality. We've been asking for equity.
Yeah.
We're saying that you started in front of us 2,000 miles.
Well,
so you have to now you have to put some blocks there so that we can now be on the same page. Equality is not policies that say we all treat fairly. You need affirmative action because if affirmative action guarantees equity, not equality.
Yeah, but
and we don't need equality. We need equity.
But the problem with that, the root of it is when black people were free, they started creating their own communities, building their own businesses, going back to Tulsa, Oklahoma in the 1900s, right? Integration is what makes us feel behind. Because we
never
are
wanted
at
integration,
people,
though.
There are a lot of people who were just celebrating a certain person's birthday a couple of days ago.
Yeah, so I mean, when you go into that whole,
I am in the experience where if they don't want you in their race, you make your own race.
So
you
now
run
we're
your
going
own
down
race.
a different barrel.
Yeah.
Let me just stop at this. I want everybody to kind of give everyone our closing thoughts. We are going to close it out and I want to thank everybody for tuning in because it's like this is probably some of the best dialogue we've had in quite some time, and viewers and everyone chiming in. So thank you very much. I appreciate it very much. Big shout out to Shay. I see you, bro. Lindell, thank you again for all that chiming in. I appreciate you. Can't wait for you to come on down and be part of the show officially. I see you, Glenda, Adina. What's going on, Derica, Monica, Terry? My man, appreciate you, bro. And closing thoughts, starting with Kev. What do you want to close it out with?
I don't want to start. You go down left to
All
right.
right, Lauren, how you want to close it out?
I think, this is the first show that we're doing of 2019, and I'm always like thinking objectives, goals, et cetera, et cetera. Similar to what I said earlier, just making sure that when we are approaching people, we're approaching them with a unique thought. We're approaching every situation with a unique thought. Letting go of stereotypes. I think that's going to help to improve our community. I'm trying to sound so diplomatic. They are all getting on my nerves.
Release the social contract.
I am releasing the filter and the veil.
Say what's on your heart. Release the social contract.
I don't know what's
Stop
on my heart.
talking about your light-skinned family members. That's what I'm saying. Don't be going on them.
And
in 2019, we need to love each other more.
There we go. Closing thought.
My closing thought is that the conversations have to be had, and we have to get more comfortable with having the conversations, but also broadening the conversations. It's not just us, and until we can, address that and be comfortable with addressing that we're going to continue to be in the same place where we are today.
Okay.
I'm a proponent of free speech. You have the right. I believe you got the right to say what you want, but just feel free to have the right to get the repercussions that you get.
Okay, I'm gonna use my closing thought now.
Oh gosh.
only thing I would say is this: stop the crabs in the barrel mentality.
Yeah.
Stop and take advantage of the fact that we are all powerful together.
Yep. How the crabs get in that barrel?
Well,
oh gosh,
we'll take him down the barrel.
But I will tell you this. This brother loves conspiracy theories, and we're gonna get into that.
We're gonna talk about that another
show. But thank you again for tuning in. This is our first show. I wanted this year to start off with kind of a renaissance, a rebirth. I'm feeling it right now with the energy that we're having up here. Thank you for everyone that's chiming in and watching us. We're gonna be doing this again. We're probably, since this is an hour-long show, we're probably gonna break it up and put half of it on for next week. But every week, expect a show from us, and we're gonna be out. We appreciate you.
No, down the line, let's just do our tag so people follow.
You can follow. It's on.
It's been on the whole time. It didn't just go off.
Hello. It just sound like hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? No. Okay. Hello. See, that's on. See. You can follow me on Instagram at LBW1908. And then on Facebook, it's just my name, Lauren Benning Williams. And on Twitter, Middle of USA.
I'm introverted Kev on every social media platform. And YouTube.
So yeah, on Twitter and Instagram, I'm at Your One True Blue. You are number one. TRU. Here, let me help you out a little bit.
Joy hit the.
He tried to. Hey, You're One True Blue. You are number one. TRUBLU on Instagram and on Twitter. And what am I on Facebook? Facebook is like just my scroll thing. I think I'm like, what am I?
Your name.
Oh, my name, Sharice. There you go.
And just for the Culture Divide experiment, you can follow us on Facebook at The Culture Divide, which most of you are already doing that. Instagram at The Culture Divide, and on Twitter at The Cultural EXP. All right, thank you again, folks.
And Barry's Bespoke.
I haven't started that one yet. That's something else I got. Another growth thing I'm going from my hustles.
Okay.
All right. Hey, thanks again, Facebook Live. Thanks again to the RL Hotel, The Living Stage. We appreciate you, and we'll see you.